here for Julian on the eve of the Australian federal elections. At the moment, Julian's case is out of the hands of the judiciary and in the hands of the Home Secretary of the United Kingdom, Priti Patel. It's a political decision. Scott Morrison, this is your last chance. Pick up the phone. Maurice Payne, if you want to retain your seats in Parliament, pick up the phone today, because tomorrow we are going to vote you out of power. Vote for the genuine freedom-fighting independents that stand up for Julian Assange, stand up for freedom, stand up for your rights, stand up for the sovereignty of Australia.
Voting that tomorrow, everybody!
Yes! That's
Thank you. Welcome to the 130th Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gathering. What a wonderful world it would be if Julian Assange could be free. If Julian was free, we would know that our governments have the propensity to act in our best interests. If Julian was free, we would know that our governments are okay with us knowing how they behave behind the scenes. However, the persecution of Julian demonstrates we are ruled by corrupt forces that depend on concealing their actions from us. These corrupt forces need us to be ignorant of their corruption. Otherwise, too many of us would be awake and too many of us would be working against them. The way to a wonderful world is through us gaining truthful understanding coupled with unity. We fail to attain unity when we allow mainstream politicians and media to control the narrative. The persecution of Julian Assange is a psychological operation which, among other things, helps mainstream communications suggest to us that established power is brutal and unstoppable. If all we do is complain about the might of the establishment, we help to maintain its control. If we plead with it, we suggest to everyone that we recognise the ultimate power of the establishment and that it is futile for us to resist. We do need to know that we are dealing with brutal and autocratic regimes, but we also need to recognise that we are able to do something about it. We need to recognise that it is a bluff of the establishment that it is all-powerful and that we are powerless. The opposite is true. We have the numbers to defeat the establishment at any time. They know it better than we know it. The task for us is to make sure everyone realises the truth of our own power. Julian Assange is a person who has made a great impact on the world for the benefit of humanity. He was able to do this because his mind was not constrained by the fear manufacturing of the establishment and its media. It is in our interest to also not be constrained by the fear induced by mainstream politicians and media. If Julian could be free, we would be able to have confidence in our democratic systems of government. If Julian could be free, there could be truthful dialogue between nations to establish and maintain peace. If Julian could be free, knowing the truth would bring us greater levels of freedom. What a wonderful world it would be if Julian Assange could be free. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Thank you. Whereabouts in Adelaide? The bell tolls for Julian Assange, and we call on you all to punish the quadruple, to punish the majors tomorrow at the polls. Place them last, second last, third last, and fourth last.
A political prisoner. You want to live in a country where we have political prisoners? Well, go there, go to one. But we don't want it in Australia. We've never had it, we're not going to accept it. Please remember the name Julian Assange. He hasn't broken any laws, he hasn't been charged with any crimes, and he's still in prison.
Julian has won dozens of awards for the same journalism that he faces death in a US jail for. He worked with other publishers for the same work, and yet he's the only person facing death in a US jail for revealing uncomfortable truths. Julian's wife, Stella Morris, has travelled to Cologne in Germany to receive the Gunther Wallraff Prize for journalism on behalf of her husband. It was said that Julian has opened up a new world for us through his perseverance, technical skills and research. By dealing with Julian in this way, a deterrent scenario is being created that will keep any investigative journalist down now and in the future. If publishing leaked materials is considered espionage, that entails a criminalisation of journalism and a threat to freedom of speech. I've heard people ask, why didn't Julian face the music? Why didn't he plead his case in front of the courts? Why is he so paranoid that he won't allow justice to take its course? We've learned that Julian was quite right to seek asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, that the US and its agencies wanted him gone, dead. He seems to have a sense of what's going on around him and what to expect next. We now know that the US agencies had planned his kidnap and murder. They sought DNA from his baby's nappy in order to further threaten his family. We know that the US government's key witness, Siggy Thordarson, was granted immunity by the Trump administration in exchange for his testimony that provided the basis for the second superseding indictment against Assange. He has now recanted his testimony and admitted that he lied about the allegations. He was being paid by the US agencies and has since been arrested for sex crimes against minors and fraud. John Kiriakou is a former CIA chief of counter-terrorism in Pakistan and a whistleblower who told us about the torture programs used by the US agencies. Kiriakou said if Julian goes to trial in the US, they're going to put duct tape over the doors and plastic over the windows. They will encode evidence into gibberish cipher to protect national secrets. They will clear the courtroom so it's just lawyers, judge and jury. The court he will go to in the Eastern District of Virginia is called the Espionage Court. No national security defendant has ever won a case there. He said that Julian will have no chance. We know that there is no justice in this case. Julian will not face a fair trial without discrimination. He will face lynch law in a kangaroo court. That is why we stand here and ask that you call your politicians and ask that they call their US counterparts and demand the charges be dropped and Julian Assange be released immediately. Free inmate, our mate, Julian Assange.
Free, free, Julian Assange. Free, free, Julian Assange. Free, free,
Julian Assange! Our mate!
Julian Assange. Inmate.
Our mate!
Julian Assange.
Only one decision! There is only one decision!
No extradition.
We would like to know at Julian Assange Town Hall gathering how the UAP stand on the disgraceful treatment of Julian Assange under the quadruple, as I call it. Liberal, Labor, National and Greens have treated him appallingly, not only being complicit with the crimes that they have perpetrated against Julian, but further smearing him personally, as Julia Gillard did when she said that he was guilty and wanted to take his citizenship, and later Four Corners did a two-part series where they smeared his character. So how does the freedom, the UAP, your slogan is freedom, 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 and as far as we're concerned, the foundation of freedom in a democracy is a free and unfettered press, and Julian Assange is the most obvious assault on that freedom of speech and therefore on our democracy at large. So would you like to say how you individually or as a representative of the United Australia Party stand on this matter?
So I could say to you as an individual, but can confidently say as a representative, and many other candidates agree with me. The party, I don't like to speak on behalf of the party because that would be something for Craig Kelly to say, but the candidates all agree that Julian Assange has been mistreated. The freedom is our number one policy and also movement that we want to push for. Now, freedom is not just about being anti-lockdowns. Freedom is the ability to feel no coercion, no intimidation and no bullying, to speak your mind and to live as you rightfully should as a citizen in a democratic country. Julian Assange is, like you said, Tony, a perfect example of a victim whereby freedom has been pulled out from under his feet and the media has twisted it to make him look like he's
The bad guy.
And, you know, I relate to that a lot because, in a way, that's what we all can relate to that. For anyone that has felt disgruntled with the major parties, it's because they feel they have stripped us of our freedoms. But anything we should say that is opposite to their point of view, we are suddenly censored, we are blocked off social media. I mean, you only have to share a medical-based peer-reviewed journal article which says the vaccines are not working, and suddenly you are banned off Facebook. And this is a medical peer-reviewed journal article. You only need professors to say we support the position of early treatment of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, and they are suddenly discredited. I mean, where is the freedom that our veterans fought for? And I am definitely behind this Free Julian Assange movement because we are all vulnerable to being in his situation. One day we could stand up for what is right, say something that we believe is genuinely wrong to basically, you know, to try and stand up for human rights, and then before we know it, we're in prison for years and hidden, and the media suddenly can smear our names and we have no chance of getting out. I mean, just imagine being in a cell unjustly for something that you did that was right. For me, that is, I could be that person tomorrow, you could be that person tomorrow, and we should not turn our backs on another Australian, especially another Australian, because once we turn it on one, we'll turn it on 20, 100, 1,000, even 1,000,000 tomorrow. And history has taught us that governments have been guilty of discrimination, polarising people, slaving people. So we can't just be constantly very submissive. We need to question and we need answers. It is our duty of care for our fellow citizens. Yeah. Lebanon is an example of a country where corruption creeped up to the point where the city blew up and then the country's bankrupt. People are prohibited from accessing their money. They have a shortage of electricity, a shortage of everything. So people are living, the money they're earning, when you transfer it to US dollars, is actually less than some African countries now. It's about $100 a month. Now, if you want to know what happens when you don't do something early on, just look at Lebanon. Corruption is thriving in every country. We're not exempt from it because corruption comes from weaknesses of humans. When they're in power, they get greedy, and that's when corruption kicks in. And as humans, just because we're in a government doesn't mean we're exempt from being that person. So I think it's important that people realise if you don't nip it in the butt soon, we're all going to pay the price, not the politicians. They get their nice couple of $100,000 a year retirement, while you and I are going to be paying for the bankruptcy and
For the wars,
high
for the
cost of living.
pandemics, for the...
Yeah. We have to act now. There's no more time to waste.
This is the crunch time.
And Julian Assange tried to do that.
I mean, he really is the litmus test for us.
Yeah.
And we watch, and the people that are not on board with him, we're very sceptical.
Yeah.
And if they're on board with him, they're a friend. Even if we don't agree with their other politics. Even, you know, they come from all different walks of life. But if they're on board with Julian, they're a big person.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly, because
to me,
he represents.
Yeah. He's the canary in the coal mine.
I really hope this year, if the right parties get into power, the next, major thing that we could do is something for Julian Assange. That would be so...
That's first order of business.
That would be so good. So fingers crossed, but it's up to the people. Tomorrow's election day. How many people that support Julian Assange, support freedom, are out there supporting people at the polling booth, the parties?
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you need to step up and be at a polling booth.
Yes.
I don't care which freedom party, but you be there. You tell them, I'm here, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And then change people's minds that want to vote for the major. When they see many volunteers on the ground representing freedom parties, that will make them think that is the norm, not Liberal or Labor. So we have a responsibility tomorrow. We need to be able to get up at 7 a.m, be at a polling booth by 8 a.m, till 6 p.m, and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Just a note, I note from the debate between Penny Wong and Marise Payne the other day, quite recently, that Penny Wong did not refute Marise Payne's claim that we could not make comments which would prejudice proceedings for a matter still within legal process. Ms Wong said the case had gone on for long enough, and if elected Labor would encourage the USA to bring the matter to a close, but ultimately that is a matter for the administration, Ms Wong says. So, Ms Wong also remained silent when asked about what would be the appropriate point for an Albanese government to intervene. So that's actually quite interesting because, for some time we've had people such as Bob Carr and also Kevin Rudd saying positive things about getting Julian Assange out of jail. So really, quite seriously, we need to actually make sure that we do get Julian Assange out of jail, and with Labor being elected, Labor need to pull their finger out and actually do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are all Assange.